Hello, I'm James Cridland, the radio futurologist, and every week or so I write a newsletter all about the future of radio and radio's international trends, and this is the podcast version for August the 6th, 2023. It's called Link Rot, RAJAR, and the BBC's global numbers. Over time, links go bad, whether it's the result of a site redesign or a site just simply falling off the internet. And some publishers, like BBC News or The Guardian, do a really good job of retaining all of their archive online. But most of the links from them just don't work anymore. They've succumbed to link rot. Now, looking back at the first edition of Pod News in May 2017, I realised that two of the links there were broken as well, and I wondered how I could fix that without rewriting history. And particularly, I wondered whether anyone was doing anything about this. And I went searching the other week for link rot policies, because you'd assume that somebody like the BBC or indeed The Guardian would have written a fair amount about this. But if they do exist, I can't find any. But as you'll see if you go back to have a look at the first ever Pod News from May 2017, two of these original links are now marked as being broken, and they link to the Internet Archive, and that's an automated process. The code that I've written checks links, and it fetches any broken ones from the Internet Archive as close to the original date as possible, and then it updates the article. Anyway, I've written a blog post about all of the details of how I do that on my personal blog, james.cridland.net/blog. And I'd be really interested if your organisation is doing anything similar in terms of link rot. It seems a pretty important thing to get right, I think. Now, this was an interesting development last week in podcasting, a music show where the artists get paid.
B-O-O-S-T. Boostagram. Boosting is loving. Boost. That's right, a beautiful day in Texas Hill Country. Hello, everybody. Hello, chat room. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the very first episode of the Boostagram Ball.
Yes, it's the excited sounds of Adam Curry, the podfather himself, an ex-MTV VJ, of course. If you use a compatible player, the music artists that you listen to in that podcast get paid for every play, and it gets paid whatever you think that they're worth. You can even send boosts directly to the artist without a middleman. It's quite a technically impressive thing. I was curious to see how it worked and curious to understand a little bit more. And so, of course, I did what, of course, I would do. I had a quick go at a music show myself. You'll find that linked. In order to make me understand how it all worked, I had to write the RSS feed in a text editor. I had to use calculators. It was a fairly horrific thing, but it works really, really well. Now, of course, the music isn't anything that you'll recognize, but one of the artists, Ainsley Costello, who's the fifth song that I play, is already earning more from this than from any other platform that she's on, including things like Spotify. So perhaps there is something in this, I think. In the UK, the quarterly RAJAR results are out. An excellent analysis from Matt Deegan and from Adam Bowie, as you would expect. Matt seems to have done up his website as well. It looks very la-di-da. Now, something that I don't believe that either of those people mentioned, the platform data, and there's a story, I think, going on there. Websites and apps have shrunk really quite considerably year on year. Smart speakers now driving more hours and more share than websites and apps, which is quite a change from a year ago. Now, DAB is still considerably bigger than online, but of course DAB comes with a lack of first-party data, which is why commercial radio groups would rather that you signed in to listen online, and the BBC, because it thinks it's a commercial radio group these days, is copying the commercial broadcasters as well. But worthwhile a peek, I think, at the platform data. Now, last week I mentioned that the BBC's overall global reach has declined quite markedly, and I suggested that making BBC News, the BBC News channel, available on YouTube for free would really help that, and something, incidentally, you can geo-block country by country. So if they wanted to, they could start today by making the BBC News channel only available in countries where they don't have carriage deals. Now, I'm told that the main loss is from the significant cuts to the BBC World Service, however, and not least the closure of BBC Arabic radio. I'd also been unaware that the BBC Minute had been closed as well. That was a one-minute news bulletin aimed at younger audiences, and it aired on many FM radio stations across the world. You can still listen to one of those because its official RSS feed still contains the last news bulletin aired on December the 23rd, 8 months ago. It was a shining example of the BBC getting its content on air everywhere, and it seems a bit of an own goal that it's all gone. Now let's take a listen to a little bit of commercial radio from Australia many, many years ago.
The makers of Persil welcome you to Australia's biggest and brightest quiz. And to give the money away, we give you Jack Davy. Hi-ho, everybody. Welcome to the Persil Show. Give it a go.
Give it a go with Jack Davis, who sounds very northern to me and most certainly not very Australian. Anyway, commercial radio in Australia turns 100 years old this year. 2SB started on the 23rd of November 1923. It's the oldest continually operating licensed radio station in Australia. It did change its name, though, from 2SB, which stood for Sydney Broadcasters, over to 2BL, Broadcasters Limited, because its competitor appeared a couple of weeks later and called itself 2FC, and 2FC sounds a bit too close to 2SB. Anyway, the radio station is now known as ABC Radio Sydney. Now, I tell you all of this because, firstly, I find it a really interesting point of difference between Australia and the UK. Legal commercial radio in the UK only came on air in 1973. And also because today I was on Brisbane's 4BC, a station that actually launched in 1930, talking about the future of radio. You'll find a link to that in the show notes and my newsletter at jamesstockroad.land, and I was interviewed by Spencer Howson. You might also want to read Michelle Rowland's speech. She is in charge of communications and the media, I think, that sort of thing. Anyway, she did a nice speech in Parliament this week about 100 years of commercial radio in Australia, which is worth a read. Now, thank you to Broadcast Radio, to Clyde Broadcast, Richard Hilton and James Masterton, Brun Audio Consulting, Soma FM, and Media Realms radio websites for your kind support. If you would like to support my work in any way, you can buy me a coffee. You can be a member. So you can give regularly or just give a one-off coffee or 5. You can do that at buymeacoffee.com/James Cridland, and you can follow me on Mastodon as well. I'm James at bne.social over there, and way more active there than anywhere else. So do follow me there if you can. My professional website has more detail about who I am, what I do, and whether I can help you further. You can hear this newsletter being read to you on a podcast player near you, it says here. Yes, you already know about that, don't you? And where will I be? In a couple of weeks, I will be in Denver in Colorado. Looking forward to that. Hoping to be in Munich. That would be fun, wouldn't it? In October. In November, I will be in Mexico City. Also, I'm going to be in London 23rd-ish of September. Looking forward to that. Radio Days Asia in Kuala Lumpur. Earlier than that, in early September, so all over the place, really. So if you're coming to any of those things, it would be fantastic to see you. But until next week, keep listening.